Alongside Eric Kane, Rob Lewis, and Brent Hubbs, I'm Austin Price for the Rocky Top Roundtable. Guys, Tennessee and Vanderbilt this week. A week ago when we taped, I would have told you that Tennessee would be 10-1, trying to win their 11th game. That did not happen. They lost to South Carolina. Don't want to belabor that. We're trying to move on. But at the same time, this is a Vanderbilt team playing for a lot, playing for bowl eligibility, and in a rivalry game against Tennessee.
Yeah, for me it starts with Tennessee. Just can they get off the deck, right? Can you get back up off the deck in a game where you still have a lot to play for? I mean, there's a lot on the line for Tennessee in terms of a New Year's Day 6. Josh Heupel, Rob, has talked all year long about this team not flinching. They've not had a moment like this to flinch, to know whether or not you flinch, right? I mean, Georgia, you lost to arguably the best team in the country. You lost to Saturday night to a team that's not very good. And so how do you bounce back from that?
I don't know. I think we're all going to find out. This game is going to reveal a lot about this team's character, I think, because they're going to be shorthanded, without their undisputed leader in Hendon Hooker. They're banged up at cornerback. They're banged up at wide receiver. It's going to be cold. Who knows what the crowd is going to be like. Josh Heupel's talked all year long about this team does things the right way. They prepare the right way. They work the right way. Saturday night will be evidence if that is the case, or if it's still the case.
Really, this is something you and I, AP, have talked about before. This is the first time this group has lost a game where it really shouldn't have. Maybe Purdue in the Music City Bowl last year, but that's a little bit of a different story. This is the first time they've experienced something like this. And then, as you pointed out, no Hendon Hooker. That's your leader. That's your leader of your offense, leader of your team. Defense follows what he does. Of course, his ability on the field you're going to miss. But, how's that week of practice been? We've heard it's been good, of course, but really intrigued to see how Tennessee responds because they've just never faced anything like this.
Well, and Joe Milton's going to be different. How much has Hendon Hooker rubbed off on him? They're roommates. Joe seems like a different kid. Play seems a little bit different. Love what they've done with him in the run game. I think that he has a chance to make some plays with his legs on Saturday. But ultimately, Vanderbilt gives up over 300 yards in the air, and you've got to try to take some shots in the passing game. Can Tennessee connect on them?
Yeah, I think that's the big question. I'll talk about this today. You're going to read about it, stuff that I've got on the site on Friday. You'll see it again with the cheat sheet on Saturday because it's one of the points that I'm kind of belaboring this week. I think they have to do things early in this game to get Joe Milton settled in and comfortable. That's running his legs, I think, Rob, some. I think the other thing, too, is in the passing game, get him throwing things kind of going away from the line of scrimmage to where the arm is a factor as opposed to the comebacks and some of the outs where you wonder where some of that accuracy is right now. I just think you have to settle him in because it's been a while since he started.
I agree. He's not. He's got great numbers. If you just look at him, he's thrown for over 500 yards in limited time. He's averaging a ridiculous 25 yards of completion this year, but he's not taken one single snap that came under pressure.
Right.
And who and how many times has he seen the first team defense when he's in there? Ability is not the issue, but I'm with you. Can they help him early? Can they get him settled in early? Because, this Vanderbilt team, this would make their decade if they could win this game.
Not only that, it's senior day. They're fighting for bowl eligibility. They've won 2 in a row over Kentucky and Florida. They're going to try to make it a special day. And so you're right, that would make their decade if they could beat Tennessee. As far as Joe Milton, super intrigued to see what he looks like in terms of actually playing downs under pressure. Along with running him, Tennessee would probably likely to get that run game going to kind of help move, get that first down, get that offense in sync a little bit. Vanderbilt's actually been pretty stingy. I wouldn't say super stingy against the run, but much better against the run than against the pass, so that might be a challenge for Tennessee early on.
I'll say this about Joe before we move on elsewhere. I like the way he entered the game against South Carolina. I like the play call. They threw that first kind of skinny post to Ramel Keaton.
Which was a seed.
Which it was. And that's what he does. That's the easiest ball for him to throw is just throw the absolute crap out of it and kind of impel it in a guy's chest. That's a route he's comfortable with. That's what I'm saying. You got to throw the things he's most comfortable with to get him settled in.
Interestingly enough, when he was the starter a year ago, they were all at home. This will be a road game. I get it. Vanderbilt's not South Carolina. It sure's not, Georgia or someplace like that. But this is his first road test since he was in Michigan, going on the road into an opposing team's environment. I would not call it a hostile environment, but it's an opposing team's environment. Who will be the guys catching the balls from him, though? To me, that's the real question. Cedric Tillman, took some nasty tackles, right here. Watch this. Watch his leg. Really, really fortunate to not have anything serious there. He stayed in the game, ended up catching his second touchdown, which got everybody cookies on Monday. Not sure anybody wanted to go get those after that game. But either way, he, Brew McCoy, who is banged up, never came back in after suffering kind of a upper, it's not upper body, but it's like middle of the body type injury with midsection area. Really kind of interested to see who they go with. To me, I bet you it's Jalen Hyatt, Squirrel White, and Ramel Keaton.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, Squirrel White, we've seen more and more production out of him the last 2 weeks. Ramel Keaton, I think, Rob, is one of the best stories on this team.
I agree. To me, I don't know. I mean, clearly Josh Heupel and Alex Golesh have established they want to play 3 receivers. But, man, Ramel Keaton, to me, every time he has been called upon, he's answered the bell this year. Every time.
Yeah, he's looked really good, and so it wouldn't shock me at all if he has a big game on Saturday. If those 2 guys are down, and obviously come game time, and McCoy and Tillman, Hyatt's versatility to bump outside, allowing Squirrel to come in and play the inside, I think will be a big factor as well. Walker Merrill and Chaz Nimrod potentially would be the next 2 guys up. I know the staff really likes Chaz Nimrod and his ability as a young guy. So Tennessee's a bit banged up at wide receiver, that's for sure, but still have some talent there with Hyatt and Squirrel.
And this could be a minor point, but it may not be. When you're talking about how practice reps are divvied up, I'd say Joe Milton has gotten a lot more work with Squirrel White and Ramel Keaton over the course of 15 weeks than he has with the top 3.
Which should make him feel a little bit more comfortable, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the same guys he's thrown to throughout the course of the
first
season.
guy he threw to Saturday night was Ramel Keaton, which has the best rapport with, it appears, because when he goes in a game, that's where the ball seems to go. Here's the question about Vanderbilt for me, Austin. Are they going to play single safety high? Are they going to say, you know what, this guy can throw it a country mile. We're going to play split safeties, play over the top, not let him throw the ball he's most comfortable with, and see if he can accurately move it down the field on an 8-10 play drive to score, and how does that affect Tennessee's play calling too? I'm going to be fascinated to see how Vanderbilt chooses to play Tennessee's offense with Joe Milton at the quarterback position versus Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I would do what you're suggesting, which is try to see if he can be patient enough to.
You mean don't let him throw 70-yard bombs?
Yeah, exactly. Make him in his mind dink and dunk. Dink and dunk for Joe is like 20-yard passes. Flip it to the defensive side of the ball. That's where everybody wants to discuss. Tennessee was a train wreck. Spencer Rattler looked like the kid that everybody anticipated him being coming out of high school.
Better.
9 of the 10 drives ended in a touchdown. I mean, geez.
Yeah, I mean, they punted one time. The other 2 were kneel downs. The thing that they did that Missouri could not do is they had the vertical passing threat to the sideways stuff. Mm-hmm. Missouri could go sideways and were pretty effective. Tennessee could get enough 4-yard gains and an incomplete to turn it into 3rd and 6. They couldn't do that against South Carolina because Spencer Rattler was locked in and was accurate as could be vertically down the field.
Now, can Vanderbilt throw the vertical pass game? They played 2 quarterbacks this year. Mike Wright started the first couple of games, started the last couple of games. A.J. Swan's there as well. But they will test you sideline to sideline with some of that, read options, with some of that jet sweep. Mike Wright is a really good quarterback in terms of running the football. He's got almost 500 yards rushing on the season. Byron Young alluded to this on Tuesday about having your eyes in the right spot, not getting crossed up with anything underneath, and knowing that, hey, if you got quarterback, you got to set the edge, force everything back inside. And then something along those lines, if you're forcing it back inside, where's the backside safety? Where's the backside backer to come and clean things up? That's where Tennessee struggled last week, and they're going to be tested again this week.
If I'm Vanderbilt, Rob, I'm going to see if you can stop a jet sweep, and I'm going to flip it out of the backfield to my running back until you stop.
100%. Short stuff over the middle. I mean, Tennessee, you've talked all year long about how they're hamstrung in zone coverage, and that was true in game number 11 last week.
I know he's mobile, Austin. I know they roll him out, but you got to go get him. Because you look at Tennessee's 2 best games on defense, they were against LSU and Kentucky,
aggressive.
And they had 10 total sacks in those 2 games.
They brought the kitchen
You
sink.
got
They threw everything at them.
Now it's going to be hard to run those twists in games up front because you got to set the edge and protect the outside. But I just think you got to come after him. You can't sit back.
Yep, you heard that rooster crow a lot last week in Columbia. The last thing you want to hear is that.
The anchor down.
When Vanderbilt scores a touchdown.
The foghorn.
All right, we've said this all year. Give me the one guy not named Hendon Hooker. Well, there is no Hendon Hooker. So Who are we talking about next week if Tennessee wins?
I think we're talking about the offensive line because I think you got to be able to run the ball, and you've got to stop with the holding penalties. 7 holding penalties the last 2 games. Those are drive killers. Mm-hmm. It killed Tennessee on their second drive of the game. You know, they have got to clean that stuff up. So I'm going with the offensive line here.
I mean, they were so bad last week. I'll just have to say, the secondary doesn't have to be the MVP. They can't play like they did at South Carolina. They can't give that much cushion. They can't lose guys in zones. They've got to make tackles when they're in position to make tackles. That again, they don't have to have an MVP performance. They can't no-show like they did in Columbia.
Yeah, I'm going to go on defense as well. I mean, you've almost got to after that performance last week. How do you respond? Thanks. You've got to win the game on defense. And so I go to Byron Young up front. You got to set the edge, force everything back inside, get consistent Byron Young, maybe Latrell Bumpus on the other side. I'll go defense. I'll go up front.
I'm going to go Squirrel White. I think that this is a game where Joe's going to be able to try to stretch it vertically, and he's the one guy that can run by anybody, and it's hard for Joe to overthrow him.
Yeah, I just think that and the defense obviously has to have a pulse, which they didn't have last week. That's the reason Tennessee got beat. I just think that I feel like Tennessee's got to outscore. They've got to score a bunch of points this week because I think the defense is kind of who they are.
So you think we're going to hear the?
Well, I don't know if Vanderbilt's got the same type of weapons that South Carolina has to put up points. I don't think they do. But I think this offense is going to have to score because I'm not sure where this defense is in terms of being able to get off the field on a regular basis.
By the way, that on-3 money, it pays for all those sound effects I'm giving you this week on the show.
Hey, banged up secondary as well. That's something to keep in mind.
Yeah,
as well.
I mean, you know, again, a secondary that's not played well all year long, and a secondary that they've had a hard time getting all the pieces in the right place, and you know,
this has got to be a record. We're going to get our research department on it. 3 SEC quarterbacks have thrown for 435 plus yards against Tennessee in 7 games.
I'm sure that's never happened before.
That's got to be a record.
Yeah, it's got to be.
I'm going to give you a third sound effect. Hub said they were dead last week, or no pulse. This week they can ill afford to.
Flat line? Is that a flat line, AP?
It's a flat line.
They can ill afford for that to happen. For Eric, Rob, and Brent, I'm Austin. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We hope you enjoy some turkey, leftover turkey, and we hope you enjoy a win on Saturday.